Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another DC Capstone Report podcast, our podcast on Alabama football and all things Alabama. Well, we're looking up to leading up to the 13th. This coming Saturday is our annual A-Day game at 1 p.m. here at Bryant-Denny Stadium. It's that time, marks the end of spring practice to see where we come from and what we can do. So today on today's podcast, in our first segment, we're going to take a look at the offense and what to expect from the offense as we lead up to A-Day and what we look for. In the second segment, we're going to take a look at the defense and what to look for in the defense. What are some areas of interest in the defense leading up to the A-Day game? And then finally, in the third and final segment, we're going to take a look at several young players to watch in the A-Day game to see what we can expect from them.
The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on Tide 102.9, The Morning Blitz with Martin Houston. You can listen live at Tide1029.com.
Well, in our first segment, we're going to take a look at offense, what to expect from the offense leading up to the A-Day game. Hope that all of you out there listening will come and enjoy the weekend here in Tuscaloosa and come to the A-Day game. It's always a fun time to conclude spring practice. There's a lot of festivities on the quad going on early that morning, beginning at 11. Where they're going to install our permanent captain's feet and handprints in the concrete right outside Bryant-Denny Stadium. There's a lot of fan zone things going on leading up to the game at 1 p.m. Well, let's talk a little bit about the offense in our first segment this today and what we can expect to see from our offensive production. I know everyone last year was focusing on the quarterback controversy. Well, there's no quarterback controversy this year. We'll see Tua Tagovailoa leading one of the teams, and I suspect that we'll see Mac Jones leading the other team. And then beside that, Talia Tagovailoa and Paul Tyson will probably split on one team or the other. So, but mainly what to expect in the offense, we got to start by looking at the coaching changes that's taking place since last season. We got a new offensive coordinator coming in, and all eyes are going to be on what's the offense going to do under Steve Sarkisian. So we got a lot to look for in this. But what I can tell from the early couple of scrimmages that we've had and the practices that's been going on, my sources tell me that we're seeing a lot more of the running plays setting up the passing plays. As the last year, we saw a lot more of the run-pass option plays. But it appears that we're going to move back to more of a running game. Coach Saban has been very complimentary of our first two running backs in Najee Harris and Brian Robinson. So I would expect to see them split between the Crimson and White teams, and we'll see how good they go on those. But it looks like that you'll see our running downhill, and we'll see how good we are at blocking for the run scheme. And then set up that play-action passing that gives Tua Tagovailoa an opportunity to go deep and Mac Jones an opportunity to go deep with some of the greatest wide receivers that we have in the whole nation this year. So looking forward to seeing our pass offense out of the running set and how we'll do that. If you know anything about Sarkisian's passing, he always loves to throw short, intermediate pass routes, crossing routes, and gets very athletic receivers into open space. And so he was able to do that at UAC when he's there. He was able to do it last year at the Atlanta Falcons using Calvin Ridley and Mohamed Sanu and Julio Jones. And he has a great wide receivers to work with in Henry Ruggs III, Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle, all of these wide receivers are coming back from last year. You're going to have a lot of players to work with. So just kind of seeing this philosophy in this game as to how that offensive philosophy is going to translate to the field. I think we're going to look for a more running offense to set up the pass. It doesn't mean we're going to abandon the pass whatsoever. It means we'll have a great passing attack because we got too good of players not to. But I believe we're going to see more conscientious runs. And what this does, I think, is in all the listeners out there need to realize the difference in this versus the RPO. When you do an RPO, the linemen, don't know exactly what they're blocking. Are they blocking a pass? Are they blocking a run? They just don't know because it's up to the quarterback to decide whether he gives the ball off or where he throws the ball or he runs the ball himself. So in this more run-oriented scheme to set up the pass, if it's a pass play, if it's a run play. So I think you're going to see more dedicated, more physical linemen knowing what they do. One of the other coaches that's come on the offensive side of the ball is Kyle Flood. He worked with Sarkisian at the Atlanta Falcons as a lineman coach there. He's been a former head college football coach at Rutgers. So I think you're going to see this coming to be where when we see the lineman under his tutelage, you're going to see more in-your-face blocking on downhill runs, open up wide holes for the running backs to go through. And then when they know they're in a pass blocking, I think we'll see a better protection around Tua. And they don't have to worry about whether it's a run or where it's a run-pass option. They know they're going to be blocking. They know their assignments to block and keep a good pocket. So I look for those play-action passes to work well and to kind of see us open up our offense first by running the ball and then throwing the ball down the field with our wide outs and our wide receivers. So I look in this one game. You always want to see what your first string can do, but I'm sure they'll mix up the players on these teams. So one team will be led by Tua, and one will be led by Mac Jones, I suppose. So you'll want to see what Mac Jones can do in the team as well, and see what he can what can he accomplish. And he's going to be able to be a good backup in case Tua goes down with an injury this year. And you might want to watch Paul Tyson and Talia Tagovailoa and see what may show us. The only drawback I've heard in the practices leading up to the A-Day has been, it looks like in our last scrimmage, the offense was way ahead in our first scrimmage, but in our last scrimmage, the offense kind of took a step back in production. And what do I mean by that? Well, there was a lot more mental errors on offense this last time than there were before. Now, that can be attributed sometimes to the defense picking their game up and playing better, or just on offensive mental mistakes. But I have it on pretty good authority that out of this last scrimmage that there was about 6 or 7 interceptions thrown. Tua threw 2 of them, and Mac Jones threw 4. From what I can heard from those who went to the scrimmages. But so I'm looking forward for us to protect the ball in the A-Day game, make good throws, run the ball consistently to set up the pass, and just kind of look at this overall philosophy of this Alabama team and see what we're able to do offensively. But it's going to be a good time to go out and take your family and watch a good offensive production and be able to see in this spring game if the offense is a little ahead of where they were last year. Now, a lot of times you see the defense ahead in the spring, but this time I think when you look at this Alabama team, you're going to see the offense a little bit ahead. So this might be a game where we have some more point production. Also, in keeping in line on that point production, when you talk about offense, is that special teams come in there. What can our special teams do with our kickers as far as kicking extra points and kicking field goals in this one to kind of ease the minds of the Alabama fans that we have a field goal kicker that can make plays? Is there going to be somebody step up from the old like Jovis Bulovas that does better, or will the new kid from Hoover, Reichard, come across and be that kid, that kicker finally that we can count on for Alabama? So watch that on the offensive side of the ball. Look for more point production, I believe, in this game than we've had in the past, because I do believe the offense is going to be just a little ahead of the defense as we go into the 8-day game on Saturday, April 13th. Well, in the second segment, we're going to take a look at our defense. Looking coming off of our spring practices, it does appear, as I've said earlier, that the offense has been just a tad ahead of our defense. And what I mean by that is there's been so many mental mistakes on defense that they've been highlighted in some of the press conferences by Coach Saban. It appears that we're really thin at the defensive middle linebacker position. And that is just a sore thumb that sticks out in every one of our scrimmages and every one of our practices. Outside of Dylan Moses, we don't really have a go-to middle linebacker. Every year, Alabama, except for last year, Alabama's always produced in-house somebody that's going to step up and be the next man up when somebody leaves and departs for the NFL. And that's just been happening ever since Ron McClain and was here, and it just kind of a turnstile of great players coming in and going out, like Reggie Ragland and Reuben Foster and Rashawn Evans and C.J. Mosley and Donta Hightower. Just a revolving door of great talent. And this past year, Mac Wilson now going on into the NFL draft later this month. So having to replace that has always been somebody in the backfield. We just expected they're going to stand up in the background. They're going to step up, and they're going to be the next man up. But that has not been the case. We didn't really prepare anybody last year. So what's been happening in practice is there's been a search for who is going to be that second guy to come alongside Dylan Moses and start on the defensive middle linebacker position. Well, over the whole course of this whole spring practice, there's been different people. Ali Cahoe, a promising freshman last year, thought he'd be the one to come in and fill. He's kind of filtered back down into third or fourth in line behind there. Some people thought Markel Benton might be the guy that's going to step up. He's still there in that position as well. But it looks like that Josh McMillan, the guy's been there for quite some time, learning the schemes, has been the guy that's been second to Dylan Moses. So you might see him in that place. A freshman named Shane Lee has given some opportunities to step up as well. So it looks like that you might see Joshua McMillan. You could say Markel Benton. You could say Shane Lee. You could see Ali Cahoe in this game fill that position. I think that's one thing that the defensive coaches are looking at. Who's going to fill the middle linebacker position? Are we going to have anybody step up? It could be somebody else that we don't even know about. This time last year nobody was talking about Quinion Williams. And look, he may be the first defensive player selected in the upcoming draft. So there's opportunity for somebody to jump off the page that we don't even know about that may be there. But that we really need to fill that void. Our first team defensive line seems to be doing well, but we need to find some second teamers. Who's going to play there? Coach Saban talks about that as well. Our outside rushers, we got a couple that still hurt. But we got Chris Allen coming back. He's able to play, I think, in this game. Terrell Lewis will not play. He'll sit out. But you got Chris Allen and Anthony Jennings. You got Yabi Anoba, who's coming off a good freshman year. He's doing really well. You got other players that might step in there like Jerez Parks and make a difference at the outside rusher position. So I think overall our defense has a chance to be better than last year's, but we've got to find a person to clog that middle linebacker position. Who's going to be the person to go in there beside Dylan Moses, and then who's going to be the next two off the bench that can come in and gain some experience for next year's team and to help in case of injury. So that's got to be a point of emphasis. It'd be great to watch that position during the A-Day game. Also, the defensive backfield, they go against the best wide receivers in the nation every practice. So they're honing their skills. It's great to have Trayvon Diggs back. Having him opportunity for him to come back from injury and do well in this game, in the A-Day game, his first full game action. It'd be great to see him out there on the field. You got Patrick Surtain coming back, and I think he's done well in practice. You got others like Xavier McKinney, who's been a really good person to step in there and play well. Of course, Shyam Carter is injured. He won't be playing in this game. But overall, the defensive backfield has been well. I think it'll be an opportunity for us to see how good they gel together with the other part of the defense. What's going to change on defense with Pete Golding now, our defensive coordinator? I don't think that much is going to change because I believe toward the end of the year last year, he was calling a lot of the plays. I do think it's Coach Saban's scheme that they're going to run, but I think having one person calling the plays and one person in charge of that defense is going to bode well for us this year as we put our defense together. I do believe that Charles Kelly and Sunseri Sal Sunseri is going to really bring an added dimension to this already good defensive unit. Put them in there with the other linebacker, with other like Carl Scott and the other defensive Brian Baker, other defensive coaches that we've added this year. I really believe we're going to have a great opportunity to have a great defensive team. But I believe it's going to be young, and that middle linebacker position is my prediction to be the weakest link on that. Are we working to fill that during spring? Is it going to be somebody coming in the summer that's going to help fill that position? And what can Alabama show us in this A-Day game that they have worked to fill that position? So overall, I think the offense is ahead of the defense. I think the defense will make some plays, but it could be a high-scoring game in this A-Day game. I hope everybody comes out and sees a good game on April the 13th. Well, in our final segment today, I want to highlight several players, young players, that I want you to take a look at for you to watch if you're coming to the game this week. I've said it on this podcast many times, even said it today on a couple of times. We have the best wide receiving core in the nation. And that's what makes this first person I'm going to call even a greater opportunity for us to mention a guy here. You wouldn't think we'd be mentioning a young guy in the wide receiver core because we got so many guys ahead of him. But there's a guy on the team, it's a freshman, named John Mechie. John Mechie wears number 3. he came in January, enrolled, and he has really jumped off the page from everybody I've talked to in any of the scrimmages and in the workouts of a guy who has an all-world skill at the wide receiver position. Now, for someone to jump off the page when you got Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs III, and Jalen Waddle already out there, doing such a good job, this guy's got to have some great athletic ability. So when you're watching on offense, look for John Mechie, wide receiver, number 3 freshman, and see what he's able to do in this game. Another guy to look for on defense is named Scooby Carter. Scooby Carter wears number 11. He's a freshman as well. Came and reported in January. Plays in the defensive backfield, safety. He and John Mechie has had some really good matchups in practice, I understand, in some of these scrimmages where John Mechie has beat him deep, and where Carter has beat John Mechie and made some good plays on him. So it's been a really good going after each other in practice. They've worked and helped each other. So look for Scooby Carter, number 11, in the defensive backfield to see what he can do in this game. Another person in the defensive backfield to take a look at is Josh Jobe. Josh Jobe wears number 28. He's a sophomore this year, had a promising freshman season. He had some injuries that kind of set him back there during the year, but he's been able to really come up in these practices and make a difference. And then it's caused him to get some playing time with the ones in the scrimmages. And he's really, the second scrimmage that happened last Saturday, all those interceptions, he had 2 of those interceptions, and one was a pick 6 that he took back for a touchdown. So watch Josh Jobe in this upcoming spring game on April 13th and see what he's can accomplish with in the defensive backfield. I think he'd be somebody to keep your eye on. Sophomore, number 28. Another person on the offensive side of the ball I want you to watch for is number 12, Tredarius Townsend. Now, he was a wide receiver last year. If anybody remembers last year in the spring game, he took a long touchdown pass for a touchdown and outrun most everybody to the end zone. So, our offensive wide receivers score is so deep that they have moved Tredarius Townsend this year to the running backs. And he has really impressed running backs. That kind of that scat back, that change of pace back, a lot of quickness, a lot of agility, a lot of moves. So look for Tredarius Townsend, number 12, to take some reps at running back. And let's see what he can do to kind of be that scat back. He also has got a great receiver out of the backfield. So look for some of this Steve Sarkisian formations for Tredarius Townsend to get free, come out of the backfield for some big plays. It's number 12, Tredarius Townsend, a redshirt sophomore. And finally, the last name I'll throw out there is somebody that I hadn't heard of until this last scrimmage, but Coach Saban mentioned him, and everybody that was at the last scrimmage mentioned him, but he's a freshman by the name of DJ Dale. Keep that in mind, folks. His name is DJ Dale, a freshman, number 94. I think he comes from Clay Chalkville area. If you come, watch for him. I hear that he has elevated himself to working with the ones in practice and in our last scrimmage on defensive line. Now, everyone had penciled in Fendarian Mathis along with LeBron Ray and Waycott Davis, but it looks like DJ Dale is kind of taking over that middle nose guard position. Wearing number 94, people say he looks like a Deron Payne, looks like Quinnion Williams, has that quickness, has that first step, but he played with a lot of mental integrity. What I mean by that, he doesn't make mental mistakes for a high school, just person right out of high school. So he's really mature mentally. He's got a great feel for the game and does a really good job. Anytime you got Coach Saban talking about you in your press conferences, you mean you're doing something right. So DJ Dale, look for him in the 8A game. Well, that's it for this week's podcast. I hope that y'all will come out this weekend at the 8A game. I'm going to try to do some live reporting from A-Day. And if you get a chance to check us out on our Facebook page, look for some live reporting from the stadium there at Bryant-Denny on April the 13th. That's Saturday, April 13th at 1 p.m. Everyone, thanks and have a great day. And don't forget, roll tide.